I want to start this video by showing you something incredibly cool that I've had for a long time. This box right here. So, inside the box, what you get is a book for every single one of the 9 old men. And within it, and I'm going to open Milcall because he was arguably the most known and the best of them all, the most talented, I should say. And within it, there is flipbooks. And then these flipbooks have a animation within it. And this, in this case, is from 101 Dalmatians. And it kind of showcases the beauty and the intricacy and the hard work that every single artist of these 9 old men went through. Now, I'm also going to show you something new that I got recently. This one right here, Luxo Jr. from Lego. I cannot wait to get started with this. Now, why am I showing you all of these things? Amongst these, there's many other things that actually remind me of how precious and how amazing the animation journey has been for us to get to here, to a place where we can call ourselves animators. Because animation took a long time to build, and there needs to be a foundation there that we all are carrying with us. And this foundation was built, it was argued, it was refined, it was protected, and sometimes almost nearly lost. And the history of animation is incredibly amazing to me. I love history, but for all new animators out there that are watching this right now, this video is a love letter to animation because it's long overdue here in the channel for us to remind ourselves a little bit on how special this craft is. So if this sounds interesting to you, let's get to it. Now let's start by talking about why looking back matters. And with all this speed that we have and all this new tech that we're having is incredibly exciting. I know I'm a tech person, a tech head, but I genuinely feel that this speed that we're going sometimes has a cost. In looking back at things and looking at a history of things is becoming almost like a trend to basically badmouth the fact that people have experience and people have done things before and there's a history that connects things. And there is a movie called Idiocracy that I feel like if we're not careful, we're gonna end up being that. Like the more you know, the less cool you become, and the more you're looking back, the more uncool things become. And I don't think this is how we should be as a society because there's a lot of story, a lot of lessons that we can learn from the past. And one of the things that is getting lost in this field that we love called animation is finding out where these 12 principles of animation came from. We all know it. If you actually want to do animation, if you actually want to work in animation, you have to read the 12 principles of animation. And the more we move forward in time, the more animators and future animators start to look at these 12 principles of animation as if they were just there. And in all honesty, the more you look backwards, the more you realize that these 12 principles of animation that we all follow, these rules that we follow in order to become animators, they come from exhaustion, from thousands of drawings that didn't quite land, and a lot of frustration. And this is why it's so interesting to know these things, because if you don't know where ideas came from, like such as the 12 principles of animation, you might miss, as an animator, why they matter. Now, let's talk about my favorite person in animation, which is Walt Disney. Now, Walt Disney was many things. One of the things was definitely controversial. Some people loved him, some people hate him. You have a person that has so much ambition and so much talent and so much vision that if people get in the way, they are set apart, but if you follow, then you go to greater places. And this is the way Walt Disney built his empire, for good or for bad. But regardless of how you actually frame Walt Disney, he didn't just build a studio, because that's besides the point. People know Walt Disney and Disney, the Disney company, as this conglomerate nowadays that is huge. What he built was a studio, and he built a belief. And most importantly, he failed repeatedly, all the time, multiple times. He lost companies, he didn't make it. However, what people see now is just an achieved, an amazing man, like a visionary that couldn't do any wrong, and nothing could be further from the truth. Because when Walt Disney started this journey of creating this animation studio and finding the foundations of animations and what works and getting the work to be repeatable, he was told multiple times that animation was not a viable medium, and it wasn't a serious medium, and even less, it was not a medium that could make him a lot of money. And yet, besides all that, he kept going. He created the Walt Disney Company, and initially it was genuinely for him to gather animators and artists and stuff to create the visions that he had in order to get the films that he wanted to do. Obviously, later on became much bigger, but that was the foundation of the company. What's more important to me is that he created a space for artists to grow, a space where artists could experiment and try things and create the multi-planar machine and have like different angles and different levels of depth to the drawings. And till this day, Disney still has like a science department that creates incredible things, kind of keeping that DNA that Walt Disney started many years ago. And experimentation in creation, creativity, all of those things were crucial to build this company. And all came from this idea of being an animator and believing in animation, which to me is incredible. Now, this space that Walt Disney created, the biggest thing to me that actually has happened in this space is genuinely the 9 old men. So it was Milt Kahl, Ward Kimball, Holly Johnson, John Lucenberry, Les Clark, Wooly Reitherman, Eric Larson, Mark Davis, and Frank Thomas. And you might know some of them, such as Milt Kahl, because he was incredibly popular, and then Frank and Ollie, they wrote The Illusion of Life. Now, these fellas were incredibly talented animators that Walt Disney basically took under his wing and formed a group, and then started kind of experimenting with animation. That's what all the experimentation of Disney nowadays comes from, is this idea that let's take this medium and then elevate it and then create some rules so we can basically constantly create the same quality movies or better all the time. And animation at this point in time was not respected as an art form. Keep that in mind. But yet, these 9 people, including with Walt Disney, they really believed that this could transcend the medium of just being something that kids do. A little bit of drawing, a little bit of magic and stuff. Now, these 9 fellows believed in emotion, they believed in acting, they believed in clarity, and they didn't just animate films. They basically defined a whole language, a whole medium for all of us to enjoy, if you think about it, right? Before Walt Disney, animation was not considered an art form per se, and after Walt Disney, all of a sudden is this new wonder of the world, and now it has all these rules, and now if you follow the rules after the 9 Old Men, now you can actually also make amazing animations like Walt Disney if you're talented enough. And I think that these fellas here, the 9 Old Men, their greatest legacy is not so much the films that they created, even though they're amazing, but it's much more on the legacy that passed on to all of us. And knowingly or unknowingly, we're all trying to carry this and trying to push it forward in other mediums like games. Now, from this 9 Old Men came the next generation of talent, and this is when you can see the ripple effect that we have in animation. Because some of the names that you know now, perhaps, of directors that are incredibly legendary right now in Hollywood, were actually taught by these 9 Old Men. They include John Lasseter, which was the founder of Pixar and later on became a big name. They include also Brad Bird. They include Andrew Stanton. They include Tim Burton as well. So you can start to see that there's a lot of talent being fostered under these legends. And yet, if you actually were to ask them individually, Rich Williams was one of them, that he created the Animator Survival Kit. They didn't really give him any slack, and it was through this hard work that they themselves had that basically got passed on to the new generation, and this generation made even bigger things as a result. We actually had studios kind of forming, feature animation kind of like getting together, and more studios were doing it. There was Pixar, as you know, there was DreamWorks, Blue Sky, games, cinematics, all of it traces back to the 9 Old Men, the work that Walt Disney was doing, and how this legacy was expanding, this amazing, magical, new new art form was all of a sudden taking shape, especially when the computer came along. 3D now is even more accessible. It was magical. Now, talking about the growing disconnect that I mentioned in the beginning, I have seen a lot of my students, a lot of people online, whenever you mention these legends that I just mentioned before, they don't know who I'm talking about, they don't know who they are, they don't have any clue whatsoever, which to me is quite sad, because if you read the Animator Survival Kit, you actually have lots of mentions of the legends that they are, and this is how they were first introduced to me. I feel like we're starting to lose the understanding of what made this special in the first place. We understand what makes it special now because we see the games and the films, and we see all these animators doing cool stuff in all these mediums, which is amazing. But we don't know where it started and what made it cool in the first place. And don't get me wrong, this is not a criticism of anyone watching right now. I think this is a symptom of speed, of how society is working right now, where everything is so disposable, everything needs to happen so fast. There's so many tutorials out there, so much information out there, so many mentors, tutors and stuff, that it feels overwhelming and it's difficult for people to concentrate on the basics. And I think that anyone out there watching this video right now, if you can take one thing from this video, is that instead of actually looking online and going to YouTube and trying to find sources of absolutely everything and finding and hoarding sources and stuff, take a beat and go back and rewind. Maybe start with something simple like this thing here that it will inspire you. Just understanding where those 12 principles came from and what made people create them will give you more understanding about what animation really is than anything else out there. Now, talking about hard times, I think it's fair to say that things are hard right now. But looking back, once again, gives us perspective of how things used to be, and I think it makes you feel much better about today. Because early animation was incredibly mentally exhausting, but also physically exhausting. Animators would work 10 to 12 hours a day for 6 days a week, 1 day off, absolutely exhausted. And there was no undo, there was no playback, there was no safety net. And on top of that, entire sequences of weeks of hard work could be scrapped like that, and you had to do it all over again. And to add to all that, every single animator here, when they were working, if you think about it, they had no guarantee that animation was going to be something long-term. Because at that point in time, it was something so new that they just knew they were having fun. And it was great, and they loved it, and they were expressing themselves. But they couldn't possibly have imagined that this was going to be 100, 200 year kind of like runway for people to actually become, incredible artists and have huge careers, right? So when you frame it that way, all of a sudden, times now don't feel so rough, right? So when you actually thinking about there's no more crunch as they used to be, and even the crunch that we had early in 2000s, it was nothing like 12 hours days, 6 days a week or anything like that. You can imagine that at that point in time, hand cramps must have been a problem. There was no such thing as carpal tunnel at that point. There was also no tutorials. There was no reference libraries. They actually had live references. They would travel to places or they would bring things to the studio to actually have as reference. But it's very different from just like quickly searching online to actually get a reference. Now, why all of this matters so much to me and to others as well in this industry. The reason why, at least to me, is not so much to say that they had it worse and we have it better. This is not the point, because societies are different, they change, and the pain of today doesn't equate to the pain of before. But I do think that you looking at this from that perspective of looking backwards on how things used to be gives you a really nice perspective on how much better things are now. And also, if they could work so hard back then we can also work hard right now. And then lastly, most of this time that these people actually were just trying it out and discovering and all that stuff. They did it with a perspective that this was just a job that might not really be there for the long run. They are doing it as best as they possibly can, but they might have to go back to an old job they didn't like, or working in construction, or working somewhere else, maybe in a bar. But animation was their passion, right? But it was very much like a hobby, if anything. And I think that perspective is really important, especially for everybody out there that perhaps either lost a job recently, cannot find another job, because that sense of, I'm doing this for me and because I enjoy it, because otherwise I would be like somewhere else that I may have perhaps I don't enjoy so much. It's exactly that feeling that should stay with you for the most part all the time, because to me at least, that's the feeling that keeps me glued and happy and passionate about being in this industry and making these videos as well for you guys. So I don't think we only inherit their techniques, I think we also inherit their resilience, their tenacity, the creativity, the fact that they could think outside the box so much that they created this new medium from nothing. I think that us pigeonholing ourselves into just, I'm an animator, I follow these principles, and therefore I actually animate for this company because they're paying me, I think that puts us in a box that is too shallow. And going back to that idea of Walt Disney being my favorite person when it comes to animation, is because he managed some way, somehow, which I still don't understand, to think way outside that box. Everybody was just seeing the art form, everybody was just seeing the animations, the moving images. It was incredible. Steamboat Willie. And for Walt, it was way bigger than that. He was like, just let me bring a bunch of people together. Let me create a place. Let's be creative. Let's have ideas. Everybody can have good ideas, no matter where you are. Music and visuals and art and colors and everything together. Let's just put a bunch of creative people together and see what happens. And then you get Snow White, and then you get, all kinds of amazing movies. And then on top of that, you have the parks. Let's get people to dream, because people are so tense and shallow and stuff. So once again, theme parks. And I think this is the kind of imagination that we have, I like to believe, as animators, and the amount of ideation and like discovery that we are able to do when we think that big. Animation is something I feel like gives you a little bit of wings when it comes to the things that are possible. And I think studying these things early on, studying where animation comes from, will genuinely rewire your brain, if you're anything like me, so you can think a little bit bigger than just is a job. Now, just to close it out, the Nine Old Men, they didn't really just created characters, they created teachers. These teachers then created more teachers. And now, either we realize it or not, we, the animation community, we are part of that chain that keeps on getting longer, right? And the most beautiful part of animation is this idea of giving to others. Like, you will go through your career wanting to be the best animator, only to find out that mentoring and teaching others is way bigger than animation and gives you way more satisfaction, because you know how hard it is to animate. And every single person that I know that has a long career has gone through this idea in some way or another. And when you get to that conclusion, you kind of realize that it's incredibly fulfilling. And I feel like these guys, the Nine Old Men, Walt Disney, all of these legends, were the very first ones to actually see that happening, right? So go read a book, buy some books, buy some stuff, get inspired. This stuff, once again, is not just cool. This is basically like a north, like a reminder of where we need to go, where we have been, and where we are right now. So if this was useful to you in any ways and you enjoyed it, then make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below, and let me know if you have any of this stuff, and also recommend any more of this stuff to me, because I am looking for more. As you can tell, I have a lot of stuff in my office and I'm looking for more. So until the next video, stay well, stay safe, peace. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. If you super enjoyed it, leave a super thanks. It's like leaving a little tip, and it directly supports the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on post notifications so you can continue to see my videos and get your weekly dose of betterment.